I was reborn. As the designated male sidekick of the story, I figured this time I'd finally gotten my hands on the hero's script. Instead, I found myself once again lost in the crossfire of a war between two female leads, both vying for me. As it turns out, I was a character voted by 1,000 readers as the ultimate sidekick, a prize. Whichever woman won my love would be blessed with the immense fortune bestowed by my very existence. The moment the car sent me flying, my last thought was one of blissful delusion. Stella wants me dead. That proves I'm the most important person in her heart. The next second, that feeling curdled into something that tasted like ash. A disembodied voice echoed in the void. The simp's consciousness has been awakened. I looked left. I looked right. Floating in the air, I couldn't see anyone else. Wait a second. That simp, it couldn't be me, could it? As if in response, a highlight reel of my past life flashed before my eyes. Stella Lynn wanted a specific pastry from a downtown bakery, so I'd skip morning classes to stand in line for her. Stella mentioned a new limited edition sneaker, so I'd pay exorbitant prices to scalpers just to get it for her first. Stella worried about her grades, so I'd give her the elite tutor my parents had hired for me at great expense. For Stella, I even turned against my own brother, Evan, fighting him tooth and nail for a sliver of her affection. And now you're telling me I was just the designated simp? The memories flickered and finally settled on a single, searing image, Stella and Rex Chu's wedding. The beautiful bride leaned into the arms of the tall, handsome groom, her smile radiant. Rex, thank you, she cooed. I don't know what I would have done without you. Those two goo brothers were insane, forcing themselves on me, threatening me. Thank you for saving me. Then they kissed, a deep, passionate kiss that seemed to suck all the air out of the grand hall. A stampede of fury trampled through my soul. So all my effort, my years of devotion, my very life, it was all just a prelude to their happily ever after? Floating above them, I seethed, wanting to do something, anything, to ruin their moment. But as an intangible spirit, I was powerless. Just as the ceremony was about to conclude, a commotion erupted at the entrance. Following the guests' shocked gazes, I saw an unexpected figure. It was my brother, Evan. My spectral form drifted alongside him as he strode down the aisle, a litany of warnings tumbling from my useless mouth. Evan, don't you see? She played us both. Don't you dare do something stupid like crash this wedding. Cut your losses, little brother. I'm the ultimate cautionary tale. They're toxic, Evan. Stay away from them. You're the last hope for the Goo family line, you idiot. But my frantic whispers couldn't pierce the veil of reality. I could only watch in horror as Evan lunged forward, straight for Rex Chu. Wait, my little brother isn't into men, is he? Evan threw his arms around Rex in a tight embrace. The entire room froze, even the security guards forgetting their duty. Then, a shrill scream tore through the silence. It was Stella. Blood. There's blood. Everyone snapped back to reality. No one had seen it happen, but somehow, Evan had produced a knife and plunged it deep into Rex's side. But Rex was the novel's male lead, blessed with plot armor and superhuman reflexes. I saw it clearly from my vantage point above. He ripped the knife from his own flesh and, in one fluid motion, aimed to drive it into Evan's chest. No. The pain that shot through me was 1,000 times worse than being hit by a car. In a desperate, futile gesture, I tried to throw my ghostly self between them. A wave of vertigo washed over me, and the world dissolved into black. Leo, I really want that new Chanel bag. A sickly sweet, wheedling voice pierced the darkness. I snapped my eyes open, still dazed from the nightmare. I retorted without thinking, Chanel? Lady, do I look like your grandpa? The words left my mouth, and I immediately knew something was wrong. That was unmistakably Stella Lynn's voice. I looked up. There she was, dressed in our school uniform, tears welling in her eyes, her trembling lip a perfect echo of the one I'd seen at her wedding. A wave of nausea hit me. I shoved her aside and bolted to the trash can at the back of the classroom, dry heaving. Leo, are you okay? Stella was beside me instantly, her hand patting my back in a gentle, picture-perfect display of concern. I'll be fine if you get away from me, I snarled. How could anyone remain calm, knowing the person beside them orchestrated their death? Wait, I died, and some voice told me I was the simp's sidekick in a novel. I looked around at the familiar classroom. This was Northwood High. My parents had pulled strings to transfer me here for my senior year, hoping I'd benefit from the better resources. Just like my brother Evan, I remembered my arrival, the boisterous, easygoing kid from a small town, a stark contrast to my quiet, reserved brother. Everyone had liked me more at first. My entanglement with Stella began at a basketball game. I'd led our class to victory, and she, looking angelic without a speck of makeup, had handed me a clean towel and a sports drink. I, a small-town boy, had never imagined I'd catch the eye of the school's most beautiful girl. To keep that dream alive, I started blindly fulfilling her every whim, draining my allowance to buy her luxury goods I'd never even heard of before, all for the sake of a smile. You absolute fool, I cursed myself. Leo, do you hate me now? Stella's wounded voice broke through my self-loathing. Her words triggered a familiar headache. Whenever my funds ran low and I considered refusing her, she'd deploy that pathetic tone, asking if I didn't like her anymore. The old me would be instantly bewitched, inventing lies to get more money from my parents for tutoring fees to fund her shopping sprees. No, I managed, forcing a neutral tone. I think I ate something bad, and your perfume is a little strong. It's making me nauseous. Oh, if you don't like this scent, I'll get a new one. I was getting tired of this one anyway, she said, her eyes sparkling. She was acting like this was for my benefit, but I knew what she was really doing. Don't think I don't know you want me to pay for it, you manipulative parasite. To change the subject, I feigned confusion. What were you saying just now? I felt sick. I didn't quite hear. Taking the bait, a faint blush colored her cheeks. Oh, it was just Chanel released a new bag, and I really, really like it. I wanted to travel back in time and slap my past self for being so talkative. Shut up. Sure, I can. Get it for your mother. Before I could finish my rejection, a piercing pain, like a drill bit boring into my temple, made me lose my focus for a second. Thank you, Leo. I knew you were the best to me in this whole class, she chirped, flashing her signature, expertly crafted green tea smile. Damn it. How did I not see how fake she was before? I clutched my head, consumed by regret, as I heard her out in the hallway, already bragging to her followers about the new bag she was getting. The entire school probably had no idea their goddess had a personal ATM. And that ATM was me. I barely survived until the final bell, bolting from the classroom before it even finished ringing. What else was I supposed to do? Wait around to be her cash machine? Besides, I hadn't seen my handsome, stoic, knife-wielding little brother all day. I had to make sure he hadn't fallen under Stella's spell yet. I checked all of Evan's usual haunts, but found no trace of him. Where had that kid gone? He couldn't have taken over my old post as her designated dinner fetcher, could he? Remembering how we used to compete for her attention, I sprinted back to the classroom. It was empty. I slumped into my seat. The dull throb in my head had been a constant companion since I'd been reborn, a pain I'd tried to ignore. Now alone, in the quiet room, it surged, a relentless tide that left me with no energy to think about what to do next. For now, I could only take it one step at a time. A soft click from the doorway announced someone's arrival. I didn't have the strength to look up, but as the person entered, a strange sense of calm washed over me. The tension that had coiled in my gut since my rebirth finally unspooled. I laid my head on the desk and fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. It was bizarre. That long nap during the evening study session felt like a factory reset. When I got home, I found Evan and realized it had been his tutoring night. He hadn't been at school at all. My parents had arranged a tutor for me too, but I'd lied, saying I'd found a better one and pocketed the money to buy Stella that last bag. This time, when my parents brought up my grades at the dinner table, I smiled and agreed to restart the lessons. This life, I was going to change my destiny through my own damn effort. The weekend passed peacefully. Then came Monday, and it was time to face the storm again. You can do this, Leo. I gave myself a pep talk at the front door. I felt Evan's silent, scornful gaze. Hey, don't think I didn't see you roll your eyes at me. Though we were brothers, we'd grown up apart. When I was born, our parents were still struggling entrepreneurs, so I was raised by our grandparents in the countryside. By the time Evan came along, their business was thriving, and they raised him in the city. We only saw each other during holidays. He was a quiet kid with a fiercely competitive heart hidden beneath a stoic exterior. To him, my arrival was a threat. He'd silently try to take anything I showed an interest in. But then I remembered his frantic search for the cause of my death in that other life. How he'd tried to take Rex down with him at the wedding. I lunged forward and threw my arm around his shoulders. I was rewarded with a muffled, indignant, "Get off me. No matter what, you'll always be my brother." I kept my arm slung around him all the way to school, with him reluctantly tolerating my grip. The moment we stepped into the classroom, the usual morning chaos died down into an eerie silence. Evan and I exchanged a confused look. What's going on? Did the sun rise in the west today? Kevin, the class clown, made a show of looking out the window. The sun's not even fully up yet. What are you looking at? I cut him off, walked to my desk, and pulled out a book to study. The guys from the basketball team crowded around my desk, whispering, Leo, man, you're acting weird. You didn't get breakfast for Queen Stella today? Shut up, you're the weird one. I think Leo's finally back to normal. Yeah, man, we were all getting worried, watching you skip class to run her errands. Listening to my friends, a goofy grin spread across my face. I scratched the back of my head. That's over. From now on, if anyone gets in the way of my studies, they're getting a smackdown. Just as the words left my mouth, Stella walked in. She didn't seem to have heard me. Her face was flushed, her eyes shining with an irrepressible excitement as she looked right at me. Class is starting. The crowd around my desk scattered. I shot a strange look at Stella's back as she sat down, feeling a mixture of confusion at her excitement and annoyance at the familiar throb returning to my temples. Was this the permanent side effect of rebirth? During the break after morning study, while everyone else flooded the cafeteria, I headed to the bathroom for some peace and quiet. Leo, a mournful, ghostly voice came from behind me, making me jump. Seriously, lady? You're going to haunt the boys' bathroom entrance now? I stared at Stella, who was blocking my way, unsure how to escape. Leo, the bag you promised me. I knew it. She was never up to any good. Sorry, Stella. My dad saw my credit card statement, and he was furious. He cut me off. I rolled up my sleeve. See? He even gave me a piece of his mind. The red mark on my arm was actually from where I'd grabbed Evan too tightly this morning, but she didn't need to know that. She looked genuinely distressed by this news. But you said you had the tutoring money from your mom. You said you could buy me 3 bags, no problem. I knew you were lying to me. As her anger flared, the pain in my head intensified. An overwhelming urge, a foreign impulse, pushed me to agree to her demand. No money means no money. I fought it, forcing the words out through gritted teeth. Stella just stared at me, her eyes holding a disturbing, fanatical gleam that sent a shiver down my spine. It's okay, Leo, she said suddenly, a smile appearing on her pale face. The curve of her lips was so perfect it looked robotic. I know you love me. You do, don't you? Without waiting for an answer, as if completely certain of it, she turned and walked back toward the classroom. Lady, stop having a conversation with yourself. I'm not your simp anymore. It was clear now. The closer I got to Stella, the worse the headaches became. For the sake of my own sanity, I had to stay away from her. I had braced myself for a dramatic showdown. Usually, when I refused her, she'd launch into a 3-act play of crying, tantrums, and wheedling to make me cave. But when I stepped back into the classroom, ready for battle, she was sitting quietly at her desk. When her cronies teased her about not having the new bag, she just said serenely that it wasn't the right time to carry it yet. Had she found a new ATM? Just as I was about to mentally check Evan's bank account, Stella looked up, saw me, and gave me a sweet, brilliant smile. That smile made me feel like my grandmother's ghost was waving at me from the great beyond. In the days that followed, I learned the true meaning of that smile. It was as if Stella and I had switched roles. The first time she placed a steaming hot breakfast on my desk, jaws dropped all around the classroom. It had always been the other way around. When she brought me a clean towel and a cold drink after basketball practice, the shock was palpable. Ever since she'd secured my devotion, she had dropped the gentle pretense and treated me like her personal servant. Now, her sudden attentiveness made me want to check if the world was ending. I saw the looks from our classmates, their sympathy for her, their condemnation for me. Worst of all, I saw the faint glimmer of admiration in Evan's eyes as he watched her. Damn it, little brother, she's not bringing you breakfast. What are you admiring? I had to end this. I had to expose her charade and save my brother from this mess. Ow. In the middle of class, I clutched my stomach and let out a howl. Today was the day. For the first time, I had accepted Stella's breakfast offering. Usually, I'd pretend not to see it and let the student on cleaning duty throw it out. But this morning, under Stella's delighted gaze, I choked it down. Halfway through the lesson, my performance began. Teacher, my stomach hurts, I said, raising a weak hand, immediately capturing the classroom's attention. What's wrong? Did you eat something bad? I've told you all, senior year is a critical time. Don't eat junk. Do you need to go to the nurse? The teacher's rapid-fire questions almost made me forget my lines. I didn't eat anything bad, I said, my voice dripping with pathos. I didn't even have time for breakfast before school. The only thing I ate was... A wave of realization swept through the class. Every head swiveled to look at Stella. Stella, I know it wasn't your fault. Right. I clutched my stomach, looking pale and frail. You bring me breakfast every day? It's my fault for not appreciating it. It's just a coincidence that on the one day I eat your breakfast, my stomach decides to act up. I've wasted your kind gesture. I channeled every ounce of Stella's own manipulative drama I could remember. I know you're mad at me for not buying you that Chanel bag. But I told you, I had my reasons. I maxed out my dad's supplementary card for you. I'm completely broke. A collective "oh" echoed through the room. Even the teacher pushed his glasses up his nose, his gaze turning speculative. Leo, don't talk nonsense. Stella's face was beet red, clearly not expecting me to humiliate her in front of everyone. I'm sorry, Stella, I'm just rambling. I'll ask my dad for money right now. I swear I'll get you that precious bag. I held up one hand as if taking a solemn oath, the other still clutching my stomach. Having had his fill of the drama, the teacher appointed 2 boys to help me to the nurse's office, effectively cutting off my heartfelt confession. Lying on the cot in the nurse's office, congratulating myself on my brilliant performance, the homeroom teacher suddenly rushed in. I thought he was there to check on me. Instead, he shoved 2 books into my hands and left as quickly as he came. I stared after his retreating figure, then down at the books. The dangers of teenage romance, and how to cultivate healthy spending habits. Wait a minute, teacher, what is this supposed to mean? After that public humiliation, Stella tried to confront me several times, but using my knowledge from my past life, I managed to avoid her. For a while, I enjoyed a period of peace. My grades were improving with the extra tutoring, and aside from the sporadic, plot-induced headaches, I felt a sense of focus I hadn't had in years. I was determined to build a life for myself, not just serve as a plot device for a self-absorbed heroine. One afternoon, while I was deep in a practice exam, the familiar, piercing pain returned. By now, I had figured out the pattern. The headache was my heroine is up to no good alarm. I tried to shake it off, my eyes landing on the mop behind the classroom door. Suddenly, a forgotten memory surfaced. Today, this was the day in the original story where I officially cemented my role as Stella's loyal dog. I recalled the scene vividly. Annoyed by a classmate who consistently scored higher than her, Stella had cornered the quiet, unassuming girl in the bathroom. In my previous life, under the influence of her heroine halo, I had not only failed to stop it, but I had actively helped her cover it up. The bullied girl eventually had to transfer schools, disappearing without a trace. I hope I'm not too late. I shot out of my seat, grabbing Evan on my way out. For some reason, my brother hadn't fallen for Stella this time around. In fact, he'd even helped me dodge her. A few times. He could be my backup. And more importantly, this was the perfect chance to shatter any lingering positive image he had of her. Heh, I'm a genius. Guided by a faint memory, I found the remote girl's bathroom. Faint sounds of a struggle drifted from within, and my body trembled. In my last life, I had been an accomplice to this cruelty. I hoped I had a chance to atone. Taking a deep breath, I threw my shoulder against the door. Damn it, I forgot they would lock it. Beside me, Evan gave me a look of profound exasperation. Seriously? Who bullies someone and leaves the door unlocked for an audience? I really don't know what goes on in that head of yours. What can I say, comrade? I'm just eager to make progress, I retorted solemnly. The noise from inside must have alerted them. The bathroom fell silent. I heard hurried footsteps. Brother, you should hide. You can't let this witch get her hooks into you. I whispered, suddenly regretting dragging Evan into this mess. Maybe it was better if they never interacted at all. Evan gave me a confused look but complied, silently heading back down the stairs. Just as he disappeared, the door creaked open. Leo, what are you doing outside the girls' bathroom? One of Stella's lackeys asked, her voice laced with panic. What are you doing here? Is Stella inside? I yelled, wishing the hallway wasn't so deserted. Chill. What are you shouting for? The girl quickly pulled me inside. Hey, this is the girls' room. Let go of me. I feigned resistance, but my body willingly followed. Leo, what are you doing here? I knew you must have missed me. Stella beamed, rushing over from a corner of the room. My eyes darted to the corner, where a girl stood with her head bowed, while I placated the main villain. Stella, what's going on? I was just passing by and heard a noise. I thought this place was haunted. I shivered dramatically. We weren't doing anything. Stella stammered, clearly not wanting to tarnish her image in front of me. "Mind your own damn," one of the lackeys started to say. "Shut up." Stella shot her a venomous glare. Then she turned to me, her cheeks flushing. "We heard a noise too. We just came in to see what was happening. I can't believe we had the same idea. It's like we're connected." What a bald-faced lie. If I didn't know the plot, I might have actually believed her. An idea sparked. "Stella, I want to take you to dinner tonight. To apologize for being so cold to you lately. Will you give me a chance to make it up to you?" I said, my voice full of sincerity. "I got a reservation at that restaurant you said was impossible to get into. You've wanted to go for ages, right? I heard it has a dress code. You should probably go home and get ready." Her face lit up. She was about to leave, but she glanced back at the girl in the corner. Deciding the girl was too timid to say anything, Stella left with her cronies, a triumphant smirk on her face. I watched them go, then quickly shut the door. "Hey, are you okay?" As I reached out to help the girl up, a warm, soothing current flowed through me, washing away the headache that had plagued me for days. The sensation was instantly familiar. It was her. She was the one who had walked into the classroom that first day, the one whose presence had allowed me to sleep. I took off my jacket and draped it over her shaking shoulders. With every passing second, the pain in my head receded, until it was replaced by a clarity I hadn't felt in ages. This was it. This must be her, my true fated partner. Sensing my intense stare, the girl slowly lifted her head. "You're Liogu. Please, don't hurt me." Looking at her pretty face, her eyes wet with tears, I realized with a jolt that I couldn't remember the bullied girl's face from my past life at all. No, I'm not here to hurt you," I said, waving my hands frantically. "I was just tricking them. Clean yourself up and get back to class." I stood guard at the door while she composed herself. As she walked out, I couldn't help but ask, "Hey, I never got your name." This was my headache radar cure. I had to know. "My name is Ruby Lee." As she spoke her name, a new segment of the story unlocked in my mind. A wave of inexplicable familiarity washed over me. Ruby Lee was a ghost in our class. Before this moment, I couldn't have picked her face out of a lineup. I only knew that after every exam, Stella would drag some unfamiliar girl off to a remote corner to use the bathroom. It had to be her. Looking at her report card, which was miles ahead of mine, an idea began to form. Back in the classroom, I gave Stella a subtle mission accomplished nod and returned to my seat. After school, I went home and told my parents. I was putting tutoring on hold again. As for my date with Stella who? Never heard of her. Seeing the frantic, silent conversation in my parents' eyes, I calmly explained that I'd found a way to help someone and improve my grades at the same time. Relieved I wasn't up to any more romantic nonsense, they happily agreed. Little did they know, I wasn't just doing it for one leading lady, but for a whole cast of them. The seat next to me was empty. Stella had tried to claim it countless times, only to be jokingly rebuffed by my friends. Now, I went to the teacher and convinced him to let me sit with Ruby. The moment Ruby moved her books to the desk beside me, the air filled with a sense of calm. The chronic headache vanished completely. Stella, however, was not pleased. She cornered me when no one was around, her eyes glistening. "Leo, why did you stand me up yesterday? I called you. Why didn't you answer? Is it because of her?" Her accusatory tone, like a wife catching her husband cheating, brought back the familiar throbbing pain. "Stella, don't say things that could be misunderstood," I said, feigning exhaustion. "And besides, if it weren't for you, why would I let her sit next to me?" I heavily implied that I was making a great sacrifice, that I knew exactly what she had done, and she should stop pretending. "I knew you were working hard for me," she said, her voice dripping with venom she tried to conceal. "Next time I catch her, I'll make her pay." I gave her a few non-committal replies, urged her not to do anything rash, and fled back to the classroom. The longer I stayed with her, the more trouble would brew. The days with Ruby as my deskmate flew by. With her nearby, not only did Stella's antics no longer trigger my headaches, but it was like I'd taken a miracle drug. My concentration sharpened, and my test scores soared. We became inseparable, moving with a silent, unspoken synchronicity. It was only with her that I felt truly free, completely unburdened by Stella's influence. Without realizing it, my reliance on Ruby had become an addiction. I couldn't leave her, and I didn't want to. Weekends were torture. 2 whole days without seeing her. I barely made it through Saturday. That night, unable to stand it any longer, I asked her to meet me at a coffee shop for a study session. I hastily gathered my books, ignoring my brother Evan calling after me as I rushed out the door. Remembering a shortcut, I turned into a dim, narrow alley. Head down, focused only on getting to the cafe, I slammed into someone. Sorry, I muttered, trying to push past. Hold it. A voice I'd only ever heard in my past life exploded in my ear. I looked up and stared in disbelief at the person blocking my path. Rex Chu, Stella's male lead. In my first life, I had never met him face to face. He was just the mastermind who had ordered my death. But why was he here now, cornering me in an alley? He wasn't supposed to appear until much later, as Stella's dashing savior. I racked my brain, trying to piece together the events of my past life, but I was horrified to find that my memories of Stella were growing hazy, replaced by vivid snapshots of my time with Ruby. My confusion seemed to amuse Rex. He let out a loud laugh. This is the trash I have to deal with, he sneered at his cronies. I could take this guy down with one hand. Yeah, boss, he's a twig. Don't know what his secret is, having two girls fighting over him. Hey boss, that school beauty Stella is pretty hot. After you're done with this loser, why don't you make her your girl? They laughed, confident this would be easy. I sifted through their words for information. The school beauty was obviously Stella. But the other girl? I couldn't imagine who it was. As I dodged their clumsy attacks, I couldn't help but think. Leo Gu, you charming devil you. I was the captain of the basketball team. I was in good shape. And since my rebirth, I'd been training even harder. A few street thugs were no match for me. Rex, who had planned on enjoying the show from a corner, watched in disbelief as I systematically took down his goons. Just as I came face to face with the novel's male lead, ready to settle the score for my past life, the excruciatingly familiar headache struck with crippling intensity. It was the system's punishment for defying the plot, and it confirmed one thing: Stella was nearby. Ignoring the pain, I met Rex's attack head-on. The alley echoed with the sounds of our brawl. It was a messy, desperate fight, more about venting rage than any real technique. The relentless headache put me at a disadvantage, and Rex, infuriated that a mere side character was tarnishing his protagonist's halo, beat down on me mercilessly. But it didn't matter. I'd calculated the time. The police should be arriving any second now. While his goons were talking, I'd feigned confusion and secretly dialed for help. This was the real world, governed by laws, not some trashy novel where a male lead could get away with murder. Seriously, what kind of hack author writes this garbage? I collapsed to the ground, my consciousness fading as the distant wail of sirens grew louder. Not again. Am I dead? Once more, I was floating in the air, watching the scene in the alley unfold. Hearing the sirens, Rex and his crew panicked and fled, leaving me behind. So much for your bravado, you coward. I spat in their direction. My gaze then shifted to Evan, who had rushed to the scene. My dear brother, I didn't know you cared so much. I'm sorry for ignoring you. From now on, I'll show you what brotherly love really is. Then I remembered. Ruby. She was still waiting for me at the cafe. As the paramedics loaded my body into the ambulance, a strange compulsion pulled me away. I didn't follow them. Instead, I drifted to the coffee shop. Ruby was sitting quietly, reading a book, a fragrant cup of coffee on the table. The picture of serenity. After a moment, I turned to leave, trying to figure out which hospital the ambulance was heading to. But as I reached the door, a familiar figure slunk into the cafe. Rex Chu. Fearing he would harm Ruby, I floated protectively in front of her. Come at me, you bastard. Picking on a woman is pathetic. I did what you asked, Rex said, his voice low. Now pay up. The words hit me like a bolt of lightning. I was frozen, stunned. So Ruby was the other girl they were talking about. She was the one who had told Rex about my habit of taking shortcuts. All the pieces clicked into place. The sense of unease I'd felt, the way everything seemed too perfect. I was drawn to Ruby because she eased my headaches, but over time, I had become addicted to the peaceful utopia she created for me. Around her, I felt hopeful, full of positive energy. I had even thought I would do anything to keep that feeling forever. I told you to hit him harder. Ruby's voice was cold, devoid of any of the warmth she showed me. Then I was supposed to show up, pretend to call the police, and you were supposed to run away. You didn't follow my instructions. You only get half. I watched them haggling over my assault, realizing with a sickening certainty that the money she was using to pay him was probably the tutoring fund I had given her. I was overcome with a powerless rage, a fury so intense it short-circuited my spectral form and plunged me back into darkness. I woke up in a hospital bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. At my bedside, Stella was weeping dramatically. Lady, I'm not dead yet. Why the rush to mourn? Having been knocked unconscious by the truth, I was once again fully aware of my role as the novel's sidekick. I possessed a unique luck that was meant for the heroines. My purpose was to be a devoted guardian, a rock for them to lean on. Once they had absorbed enough of my good fortune, they would trigger their encounter with the male lead and begin their own epic romance. As a depleted tool, I would then be written out of the story, usually through a convenient death. Couldn't they at least let me live? The only way to gain my luck was to win my love. After my rebirth, my renewed focus on my family had caused our business to flourish beyond its original trajectory. My brother, the recipient of most of my care, had not only avoided Stella's influence, but had also earned an early admission to a top university. Thinking back on Stella's calculated flattery and Ruby's elaborate schemes, I could only sigh. The city was full of traps, and I was done trusting women, especially beautiful ones. Leo, are you okay? Oh, how could this happen? Stella sobbed, not forgetting to slander her rival. Don't you see, Leo? Ruby is a curse. The moment you started sitting with her, you stopped talking to me, and now you've been attacked. Oh, you poor thing. If I didn't know the whole story, I might have actually been moved. I turned to her, my expression full of pained adoration. Stella, you think it was her too, don't you? I knew something was wrong. I was in love with you, but when I got close to her, it was like I couldn't remember you. Now, seeing you again, I feel my love for you reigniting. It was a disgustingly cheesy line, but it worked. I couldn't fight the protagonist's plot armor, but I could make them fight each other. Let's see which was stronger, the manipulative White Lotus or the scheming Cinderella. Stella's face lit up. She reverted to her delicate, helpless persona. Leo, don't you worry. I won't let her bother you ever again. You belong to me. Yeah, my karmic luck belongs to you, I thought, but I just winced and complained that my wounds hurt, successfully driving her from the room. Moments after she left, Ruby walked in, carrying a stack of review materials for me. Looking at them, I felt a pang of conflict. A part of me genuinely wanted to change my fate through hard work, but reality had dealt me a cruel blow. My recent academic progress wasn't my own achievement. It was just a temporary buff from a heroine's halo. I had jumped from one fire into another. With a bitter smile, I fed her the same lines I'd given Stella. Under normal circumstances, the calm and collected Ruby might have seen through my act. But now, in the heat of battle, she was too eager to crush Stella and become the sole heroine of my world. When Evan arrived with dinner, the facade finally cracked. I threw my arms around my little brother and burst into tears. Evan, I sobbed, you're the only one who's good to me. My days in the hospital were surprisingly pleasant. To escape the battlefield of the warring heroines, I had Evan visit me every day under the pretext of being lonely. I hired a new tutor and poured all my energy into catching up on my studies. And of course, I kept up with the gossip. The war between the two heroines had escalated from classroom skirmishes to a school-wide spectacle. Their level of insanity was astonishing. One day, Stella would corner Ruby in the bathroom for a chat. The next, Ruby would be on the school roof, threatening to jump and ruin Stella's perfect image forever. Stella plastered posters around the school, exposing Ruby's supposedly humble family as being well off, accusing her of faking poverty to seduce me and scam me out of my money. In retaliation, Ruby printed out an itemized list of every luxury gift I'd ever bought Stella, complete with prices, branding her a gold digger. Then she'd post my improved report card, proving how much she had helped me. My phone blew up with messages of sympathy and ridicule. I immediately asked the doctor to extend my hospital stay. There was no way I was going back to that circus. I didn't forget about Rex. I fully cooperated with the police, casually dropping details about his background and habits. In this timeline, he was just a street punk, not the untouchable magnate he'd become in my first life. And thanks to my rebirth, my family's business was more influential than ever. With pressure from all sides, the police quickly tracked him down and arrested him. He stubbornly insisted it was a random act of jealousy, not a planned assault. Yeah, right. A blessing I'm sure you'd love to have. Just as Stella and Ruby were gearing up for their next round of public drama, the police showed up at school and took them both in for questioning in connection with the assault and their escalating public disturbances. When I finally returned to school, the gazes had shifted from colossal idiot to tragic victim. Who wouldn't pity someone who suffered such a disaster just for being too popular? I ignored the whispers and focused on my books. They had been so certain they were the protagonists, that the world revolved around them. They believed their existence was a gift, and I, the sidekick, should be eternally grateful for any crumb of attention they threw my way. But why was I born to be someone else's supporting character? Why was my destiny to be a selfless sacrifice? I would prove that I could change my fate. It seemed the heroine's halo was an all-or-nothing deal. Once everyone saw them for who they truly were, the magic vanished. Stripped of their plot armor, they faced the full consequences of their actions. I chalked it up to a glitch in the system. With the heroines and their drama gone from my life, I finally found true freedom. I wasn't a novel protagonist who could master calculus in a single night or ace any exam. I struggled with math formulas and wrestled with classical literature just like everyone else. But for the first time, I felt like the hero of my own story. And I looked forward to the day I might meet a leading lady of my own, hopefully, one who was a little less diabolical. Life was wonderfully ordinary, and the future was mine to write.